Test, test, test. Test, 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 test. Test, test. Test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test.
Test, test, test.
Oh, perfect. We're back. Okay.
Test, 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 test.
Okay. Sorry about that, live streamers. Okay, we're gonna launch it again on TikTok. So it should be working now. Take me to a place I can't imagine. Victim of heartbreak and I'm so damaged. Stepping in blood with these thugs and I can't panic. Okay. Okule, thank you for joining the live. Guys, our TikTok just took a hit because I had to stop the live and restart it again because the audio wasn't working. It should be working now. So to all the joiners now, just be aware that we were just live. Brought the live stream down just to fix the YouTube audio. So guys, you can check us out, State of Deception on YouTube. From now on, actually every live I'm going to put the YouTube here, but it's State of Deception, all one phrase. You can watch us on YouTube. What's up, Disc Duffer? What's up, Unfiltered? What's up, Welsh Wolf? What's up, Frankie? Thank you guys for joining the live. What's up, Ty Hikes? And you know, share this live because there's a lot of people that was just in the live that obviously we had to start the live again, so the views went down. Now the views are going to go back up again. We just started. We're taking anti-vax debates. We are live on YouTube. Yes, got you on YouTube. Sound is, yep. Okay, thank you, MG. And make sure you guys subscribe on the YouTube as well. It's always tricky when I first start streaming again to get the equipment working properly. You know, I'm not like a sound engineer or nothing, but now we are all good, and I think we're loud and clear on YouTube as well, which is really good. So any debaters and whatnot, you know, you're going to be heard loud and clear. No one's going to interrupt you. Your voice is going to be streamed live over the internet. So Scooby-Doo's joined, Kevos has joined. What's up, Big JP? What's up, John Bullard? He said, hello, brother, can you put up your YouTube channel, please? Yes, I can. Yes, indeed, I can. Someone said, why can't we vax ourselves? Of course you can vax yourselves. The problem is that they coerce people into getting something that's based on junk science. It's based on nonsense. None of the things that they allege are true. They do it because vaccines are an extremely lucrative product, and they are a direct pathway from the pharmaceutical industry right into your body when you are healthy. There's no better product. They can give it to you when you're not sick. They can give it to you repeatedly. They don't have to prove that it did anything because they just say, well, it prevented something that you would have got, you know. Crunchy Mom Life says, what's your views on the gaslighting still happening after everything released recently in America? So the things released recently, obviously a study that shows some kind of correlation. That's all well and good, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that what the US State Department is saying is true. It doesn't mean it's false. But the thing is, none of that matters when you're operating from first principles. All we need is for them to prove that there is contagion and that the viruses that they are alleging are the actual causative agents of disease. They can't prove it. So everything else following from that is smoke and mirrors. You understand? You know, people get bogged down in, oh, well, you know, COVID was real, but it wasn't as bad as they said it was. Or they say, oh, you know, vaccines, the childhood vaccines are good, but the COVID vaccine is bad. Or they say, oh, well, vaccines are good, but it's actually the paracetamol. And in reality, all of it is bullshit. All of it is designed by the pharmaceutical cartel for you to take products that you do not need. And if you ask them to establish the truth of what they're saying, they will heckle you, they will malign you, they will treat you as if you're some kind of idiot for asking them to establish and substantiate the things they're saying. I had doctors on a neonatal ward tell me that if my child didn't take the RSV vaccine, they would definitely die. And because they're premature, they would definitely die. I went and found the studies from the JCVI on the RSV vaccine and the periods in which the vaccine is indicated, and I calculated the likelihood of a child dying from the vaccine. It was so negligible that it's unbelievable that this vaccine even got approved. One, and two, their allegation was that the vaccine, the RSV vaccine, doesn't actually reduce the likelihood of death, but it reduces the likelihood of hospitalization. So they actually have no evidence that the RSV vaccine presents death. I presented this evidence in court myself, in the family court. So I know it for a fact to be true because I've looked at the studies myself, right? There is no evidence. According to them themselves, there's no evidence that the RSV vaccine even prevents death. There's no difference in the rate of people of dying from RSV versus rate of people not dying from RSV when you take the RSV vaccine. But yet they added it now to the vaccine schedule in the UK, and in reality, there's no evidence that it works. And they say, oh, it reduces the likelihood of you being hospitalized with RSV. But the reality is that there are many reasons why a person would be less likely to be hospitalized with RSV if they take an RSV vaccine, such as if they have taken an RSV vaccine, when a doctor does a diagnosis on them, they're probably less likely to attribute their diagnosis to RSV. And if they're doing epidemiological studies, there are other cofactors that could make a person who has had the RSV vaccine also be less likely to be diagnosed with RSV when they come in with any conditions. Also, people that are on hospital wards already are more likely to be diagnosed with RSV. So then they will be designated as hospitalized with RSV. So say you're on a hospital ward, you are there for a prolonged period of time, you contract RSV, you now constitute a case of hospitalized with RSV. And then they say, oh, well, the people that had the RSV vaccine and then got sent home because we didn't hold the child on the ward until the child got the RSV vaccine, oh, well, they're less likely to be hospitalized with RSV. Yeah, because you let them leave the hospital. And when the person is in the hospital, you keep them there. And anything that goes wrong, you say, oh, it was caused by RSV, because you don't want to admit, that you've been, that there's been medical negligence, etc. So there's loads of reasons why a person will be more likely to be hospitalized with RSV. And there's no evidence that the RSV vaccine actually reduces the incidence of death. Okay, Trashman says, sounds like a good reason to get the vaccine. Okay, Trashman says, imagine if we were just vaccinated. Well, most of us have been vaccinated. Max says I'm talking nonsense. Well, Max, come on debate, and we can break it down nice and slow, and I'll speak in a way that may be easier for you to understand. Edgy Tree, okay, says, yeah, my ma had horrible side effects. Couldn't walk properly, was in unbearable pain. Many people get unbearable side effects from vaccines, and they cover it up. Nobody 666 says, Antivax all the way. People need to do a deep research instead of being sheep. Oh, we're going to get into it. So after this live, I've got some videos lined up for my loyal YouTube watchers. Right, I got some videos lined up, and I want everyone to stay afterwards. We're going to do State of Deception Amma Reacts. The videos are also going to be live on my YouTube, and I'm going to do reaction videos. So I'm just going to show the YouTube watchers quickly what that's going to look like. So it's going to be me here, and then we're going to have what's it called? The video here. You see? So this is going to be the video capture, the input. The source, if you will. This is the source window capture. That's it, and it will show you what I'm watching, and then you'll see the reaction video live. Can you see that? So for the YouTube watchers, guys, remember, check us out on YouTube, because it is really good. The YouTube stream. I think it's better to watch on YouTube than on TikTok, but it depends what you're into, innit? So we've got the videos all lined up here, guys. For anyone watching on YouTube, and then you'll see. Can you see I've got all these Facebook videos? There we go. So we got all of these videos live, and obviously you can see some of the topics, quite interesting topics. We've got Spanish flu. So Spanish flu is not a contagious event. That's one video. We've got viruses don't exist. We've got Dr. Robert Wilner injects HIV into himself on TV. We've got this one, which is an interview with Dr. David E. Martin. So a lot of doctors, by the way. Not that I care if someone's a doctor or not. And then we've got the Senate hearing, which is about the largest autopsy study, which was revealing people dying from the COVID vaccine. Dr. Kirk Moore, billions given to peer reviewers. So this is our fire lineup, and then we've got someone I really like, actually, Dr. Mike Eden. He was the Pfizer. I think he was a Pfizer director or an executive. At least he was some form of executive that came out and said that the COVID vaccine was harmful. And Dr. Mike Eden, actually, as of late, I've seen the video, has now taken the same position as me. He has now taken the no virus position. And this guy, let's get his actual credentials up. Dr. Mike Eden. This guy was actually, oh, hold on, I was getting a call. This guy, Mike Eden, let's see what his position was. He was vice president of the Allergy and Respiratory Research Division of Pfizer and the co-founder and former CEO of biotechnology company Ziarco. Not exactly a layman. Nay says we can't hear you. Why would you not be able to hear me? Oh, yeah, it's because I'm getting a call. Sorry, my girl's calling me. Yeah, sorry, you guys can't hear me when I get calls. Amy says, don't trust scientists, listen to all these scientists. Amy, are you an idiot? Because if you were paying attention, you obviously weren't listening. You would have heard me say, I don't care about the fact that they're doctors. I'm simply showing you videos of these individuals. Michael Yeadon is not credible because he's necessarily a doctor. He's credible because he worked for Pfizer. So he works for a company in production of vaccines. He produces vaccines. He produced vaccines like the COVID vaccine. I'm not saying because he has a medical degree he's credible. I'm saying he's credible because he literally produces vaccines, or he was producing vaccines. So that's one of the people that makes the products that you're defending, and he's coming out telling you that the product is a bad product. So pay better attention. Trashman says, bro probably thinks paracetamol causes autism. No, I've never said that. Lou Andres says, we believe what we want to believe. Crunchy Life says, well, one of those was 99% eradicated before they came out. Exactly. Let's get some guests on. I know the live views are fluctuating, but you got to give you guys time to get a grip on everything that's happening. I've got multiple screens up. Blue B says, don't listen to doctors and scientists. Listen to these people who have no qualifications. Oh no, listen to you, some guy on TikTok who's too scared to come up in the live box and debate, who if I ask, name 2 ingredients in a vaccine, you wouldn't even be able to name 2. But we should listen to you. Right, okay. You literally just listen to your doctor, and your doctor says, oh, come here, mate. Let me inject this into you. And then you go, okay. And then you literally don't even have the cojones to ask him, mate, actually, hold on. What is in this? You're literally scared of your doctors. You're scared of doctors. They walk around, these charlatans, they walk around with white coats on, pretending that they know all kinds of stuff. And you're too scared to even question them. And then you come on and try and give me energy like you're some kind of credible individual. You're too scared to even question your own doctor. So don't come talk to me. You're scared of doctors, mate. Tad says, how can you be against all vaccines? I've taken them and nothing's happened. Yeah, I'm not saying that all vaccines are going to cause you to have some serious side effect. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the basic premise of what vaccines are supposed to do is false. So if it's based on a false premise, then obviously they would need to establish that premise is true before there's a justification to take a product that is supposed to cure or prevent a condition based on that premise. Harry Philby says, Amma, have you tried TikTok Studio? You can link up your mic. Yeah, TikTok Studio doesn't give me all of the capabilities that I want to have when I'm streaming live. I have tried it before. Lou Andres says, you prove your own point. You're generalizing everyone. Okay. Name 2 ingredients in a vaccine. Oh, yeah, you can't. Yeah. Go Google that, mate. Because I guarantee you can't. I'm confused now, so you're not against now. I don't know what you mean. Okay. Half of these people have no clue what's in the ingredients. Do you know what? Actually, while we're live, because I have multiple screens, like I say, let's play the video that's on my actual, what's it called? On my actual TikTok page. So you guys can hear some of the ingredients that are in vaccines. I think that would be interesting, don't you guys? And then maybe some people can come up and tell me why these products are in vaccines. That'd be interesting. So let's hit up the TikTok. Let's read comments as well in the meantime. Are you against all vaccines or no? Yes, I'm against all vaccines. If you weren't just yapping a million miles a minute, I would love to debate your pants off. Come on, I'll speak nice and slow. I know that I probably speak too quickly for some people, because most people, their brains work slowly. Good luck, mate. Don't let this consume your life. Just have a good one. Life's too short. Oh, I enjoy doing this. There's meant to be a big announcement this week from the US about the jab. Interesting. The fan in the back is loud. Yeah, that's my 3D printer. This print is almost done, so when it's done, it should sound a bit better. So I'm gonna get up this video. This is Stanley Plotkin. So this guy is one of the foremost experts in the world on vaccines. So he's being interviewed and asked, what's in vaccines? And quite a fascinating video. Someone commented on it, pretty confident this is AI. Wow, that's hilarious. So they're so concerned about what was said that they think that it must be AI. Okay.
Well, the polio vaccine does. Are you aware of any simian monkey viruses, meaning viruses that come from primates, that contaminated polio vaccines and infected individuals receiving the polio vaccine?
Yes, SV40.
Okay. What does SV40 stand for?
Simian virus 40.
Okay. What, was it the 40th simian virus found? Is that why it's called?
So they isolated some kind of simian virus, right? And then they put this into the polio vaccine, injected it into people, and then they actually started developing negative symptoms. Not necessarily of polio, but they got negative symptoms, right? So that's one thing that's in the vaccine.
Any animal other than simian or bovine that is in any vaccine?
Yes, there's a pig virus present in one of the rotavirus vaccines, circovirus.
Do any of the vaccines in the childhood vaccine schedule contain blood serum from calves or other bovines?
Calf serum is removed before the vaccine is used because you don't want to sensitize the vaccinee to cows.
What is this?
Vaccine excipient and media summary.
Can you go to...
MJ Blees says, what's the debate? You've made your idiotic choice. Ain't nobody going to change it. What choice have I made? I'm remaining to making no choice. You have made a choice. So why don't you come and substantiate why you made the choices that you made? Because I haven't not made a choice. Not doing something is not a choice. That's not doing something. You have chosen to take products. Why don't you explain to us why you think that it makes sense to take them? Let's get into the science. I thought you guys love science, but you never want to really talk about it.
Kinrix on the first page.
Yes.
GTAP-IPV. Do you see in the third line down, it says calf serum? Do any vaccines in the childhood schedule contain embryonic guinea pig cell cultures?
Varicella vaccine was passage in guinea pig cells.
Embryonic guinea pig cell cultures. Did the doctor tell you that that was in the vaccines that they gave your kids?
Do you know if any vaccines contain cow's milk in it? Derived from cow's
well,
milk?
it could be, casein, for example, could be.
If there was casein in the vaccine, the child could become sensitized to that, correct?
No, I'm not sure about that.
You're not sure anymore about that? Do any vaccines contain egg protein?
Yes, influenza.
Do any vaccines contain gelatin from pigs?
Yes.
Oh, did you hear that, guys? So, you know, if you're Muslim, be careful because vaccines contain gelatin from pigs. I hope you guys are getting the kosher and the halal vaccines because they contain all kinds of remnants from all of these different all of these mammalian cells. Like, very strange, isn't it? Like, but you, of course, you guys have. Oh no, that's just the science, right? I'd love if you could come on and explain why these products are in vaccines.
The vaccine schedule contain human albumin.
Oh, yes.
What is human albumin?
Human albumin is part of human serum. It's part of the blood that is liquid.
None of it remains in the final product.
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, because that could be problematic, right?
Well, it could be. I mean, if the individual is not healthy.
Or if maybe some of the human blood components bind to some of the aluminum and develop antibodies, self-antibodies, correct?
If they develop antibodies against a serum component, that would not be good.
Yeah, so he's just basically conceded that it's possible for, based on some of these ingredients, for the body to develop antibodies against some of the products in vaccines. And this actually can cause harm. You can look up studies on something called antibody-dependent enhancement, whereby antibodies are created against something and they actually increase your likelihood of suffering harm. So look, you guys can look that up, antibody-dependent enhancement.
Vaccines in the childhood vaccine schedule contain MRC5 human diploid cells.
Yes, rubella, varicella, hepatitis A.
What are MRC5 cells?
They are human fibroblast cell strain. They were created by taking fetal tissue.
Banter, the whole live is not about you. You said you'd offer to come up and debate. You need to wait for the video because we're watching a video right now. So just be patient. Alexander says, am I far right? No, I'm not far right. My question to chat is, since I didn't get the vaccine, never got sick, why would I need the vaccine? Your guess is as good as mine.
From a particular fetus that was aborted by maternal choice.
Oh, wait, guys. Make sure you listen.
Taking fetal tissue and from a particular fetus that was aborted by maternal choice and the cells, the so-called fibroblast cells, were cultivated.
So they cultivate fibroblast cells using aborted fetal tissue. Did they tell you when you aborted your child that they were going to take fibroblast cells, cultivate them, and use them in vaccines? Did they tell you that? So you guys are getting this stuff injected into you. Hey, but you guys are going to tell me, why is that bad, right? Okay, let's carry on.
Vaccines on the childhood vaccine schedule contain WI38 human diploid lung fibroblasts.
Well, they used to, but I don't think anything is made in those cells anymore.
If you could turn to page 3 for MMR and MMRV.
Banter says the fetal cells are not in the vaccine. Banter, you're not paying attention. I'm not talking about the fetal cell lines that are used in the production of vaccines that come from cell lines from like the 50s. I'm not talking about them. He clearly said that there are human fibroblast cells that are obtained from aborted fetal tissue. So you need to pay better attention, mate.
Do you see that within the ingredient list that lists WI38 human diploid lung fibroblasts?
Yes, I do see that.
Isn't it true that human DNA in vaccines is typically purposely fragmented?
Yes, I would say mostly for theoretical reasons, doesn't want to put DNA
See, this is the problem with people like Banter. He's willfully ignorant. He knows full well that I didn't say that there are fetal cells in vaccines. I've clearly said, as Stanley Plotkin said twice, if you pay attention, that they are extracting fibroblast cells from aborted fetal tissues. That's clearly what it said. Nobody has said there are fetal cells in the vaccines. They use fetal cell lines in the production of vaccines. They're not necessarily in the vaccines. They are saying there are fibroblasts that are extracted from aborted fetal cells. Pay better attention. And of course, here we go, just like clockwork. Why is that bad? So everything that you clearly don't know what's in vaccines. That's a problem. And then when I bring up what's in them, you don't know why it's in them. You just go, why is that bad? Well, why don't you tell us why it's in there if you know so much about vaccines and what you're injecting into your body?
Into attack DNA into vaccines.
You familiar with insertional mutagenesis?
Yes.
Do you have any study to show that injecting millions of pieces of human DNA
Pay attention.
into babies and children is safe?
The only studies are all the safety studies that have been done on vaccines.
Wasn't the purpose of this study to help develop a human cell line or to support the use of human cell lines in the creation of vaccines?
The idea was to study the...
So I'm going to start blocking people soon because we got too many people that are being idiotic. I have never alleged that any of the things he's describing are bad. Clearly, when I played this video, the thing I said was that most people don't know what's in vaccines. Then I pulled up this video to show people some of the ingredients in vaccines. I've not made a single allegation that these things are bad in the vaccines. I have made the claim that most people don't know what is in vaccines, and so I'm elucidating what is in the vaccines, and then I want people to substantiate why they're in the vaccines. I've not made a claim that they are bad. So you're not paying attention. Amy says he's not describing anything in vaccines. Amy is also not listening. So you guys are just idiots, and you're all going to get blocked
cell
eventually.
strains from fetuses to determine whether or not they could be used to make vaccines.
This study involved 74 fetuses.
76.
76.
Mm-hmm.
And these fetuses...
Pay attention.
Were all 3 months or older when aborted, correct?
Yes.
What organs did you harvest from these fetuses?
Well, I didn't personally.
So what organs did you harvest from these fetuses? Pay attention. Everyone heard that? What organs did you harvest? Okay.
Harvest any, but a whole range of tissues were harvested by co-workers.
Okay. And these pieces were then cut up into little pieces, right?
Yes.
And they were cultured?
Yes.
Okay. Some of the pieces of the fetuses were pituitary gland that were chopped up into pieces to, okay, included the lung.
Did you hear that, Banter? He's literally describing how they're harvesting fetal organs. What the fuck are you talking about, you idiot?
Pieces,
Yes.
okay, included the skin,
Yes.
kidney,
Yes.
spleen,
Yes.
heart,
Yes.
and tongue.
I don't recall, but probably yes.
Are you aware that one of the objections to vaccination by the plaintiff in this case is the inclusion of aborted fetal tissue in the development of vaccines and the fact that it's actually part of the ingredients of vaccines?
Yeah, I'm aware of those objections. The Catholic Church has actually issued a document on that which says that individuals who need the vaccines should receive the vaccines regardless of the fact.
Ha ha ha! Banner, you're such an idiot. Banner goes, it's tissue, not whole organs. Organs literally are tissues. You absolute idiot. You're actually an idiot. Organs are tissues. This is the study that affects on tissue. They do this on Tylenol. Yeah. So you just said, let's scroll up. Banner, you just said, he said no organs. Everyone scroll up and see what Banner said. He said no organs. Then he goes, it's tissue, not whole organs. He's literally describing the tissues that are coming from the organs. Like this guy. I'll let you up in a second. Don't worry. It's only got like 1 minute left.
I am the individual who will go to hell because of the use of aborted tissues, which I am glad to do.
Okay. Do you know if the mother is Catholic?
I have no idea.
Okay.
So she should consult her priest.
Do you believe that someone can have a valid religious objection to refusing a vaccine?
No.
Do you take issue with religious beliefs?
Yes.
You've said that, quote, vaccination is always under attack by religious zealots who believe that the will of God includes death and disease.
Yes.
You stand by that statement?
I absolutely do.
Okay. Are you an atheist?
Yes.
Okay, nothing wrong with being an atheist or anything like that. Right, let's get Banter on finally. So, Banter, you're like an expert at moving the goalpost. Every single thing you've said has been wrong, and then you just move the goalpost as soon as he said something that contradicted your previous claims.
No, not necessarily. What you were saying and what you were implying that he was saying was, it's painting a picture. No, let me finish. Is that you're painting this picture that they're over there dissecting these fetuses and taking out whole kidneys, whole hearts, whole organs. No, they're taking out tissue samples, and they use these tissue samples to study the efficacy, which means how effective it is, in different vaccinations. Okay.
How does that contradict anything I said?
Because you said they were taking out organs. They don't take out whole organs. It's taking out.
They're taking tissues from organs. That's clearly what he's describing.
Yeah, and you're painting a picture like they're taking out whole kidneys and whole hearts, and no,
they are extracting them from the aborted fetus to get the tissues.
They're getting tissues.
He literally said they chop them up into little pieces and then they get the tissues.
This guy, he literally said, go back, play the video again. He said you're not harvesting organs.
Okay. No. Here. Let's play it again.
Cell line, or to support the use of human cell lines in the creation of vaccines, the create human diploid.
Into vaccines.
You familiar with insertional mutagenesis? The creation of vaccines?
76 is any.
Okay. Some of the pieces of the fetuses were pituitary gland that were chopped up into pieces to. Okay.
Oh!
No. There is a part in the video where he literally says we are not harvesting whole organs. It's in the video.
But I'm not saying, I'm not alleging that he said that they're harvesting whole organs. I'm saying that they get the organs, they chop it up into little pieces, and they use those pieces of the organs. So what are you talking about? No, I've never claimed that they're harvesting organs.
Okay, all right. No, it very much came off as that you're implying that they're harvesting.
Yeah, because you're hearing what you want to hear. Nobody's talking about organ harvesting.
No. Okay. Anyways, so next subject. Then you're asking like, well, why are all these different, like, why is you don't even know why is this different mammalian protein in vaccines? So if you don't even know why like egg is in a vaccine, which we have to ask, are you allergic to eggs before we give you a flu vaccine?
Tell us.
You don't even know that.
How do you know I don't know it?
Because if you're saying it's a problem,
when did I say it's a problem?
Then what?
Your comprehension skills are so poor.
Okay, I can. Okay, why is there?
I clearly have said multiple times, I am not making an allegation that these particular ingredients are harmful. I'm showing people things that are in vaccines that they are not aware are in vaccines, and processes used to manufacture vaccines that people are not aware of, thereby showing people that they don't have informed consent. They don't truly understand what they're injecting into their body. I have not made this live a claim that any of those ingredients are harmful to the human body. I'm very careful with the things that I say.
Well, then why are you bringing it up if you know that it's not
I'm bringing it
harmful,
up again for the
that's
fourth time to
disingenuous.
show that people don't know.
Disingenuous argument.
I'm
That is a
bringing
disingenuous
pay
argument.
better attention. I'm bringing it up to show again that people are not aware of the ingredients that are in vaccines. Even this deposition itself shows that the plaintiff in the case was alleging that the people that this vaccine, she has a religious objection to the fact that there are fetal cell lines used in the production of vaccines. I never said fetal cell lines are harmful. I said people don't know what's in them and what's used to make them. And of course, there will be a cohort of the population that if they were aware that fetal cell lines are used in the production of vaccines, they would either want to look into it or they may even have a religious objection to it. So there are multiple points. There are multiple different points.
But they also
there are
better quit taking
multiple.
Tylenol.
Let me
They
finish.
better quit taking
Let me finish.
antibiotics.
Let me finish. Let me finish. There are multiple different points you can make around vaccines. You can make arguments around informed consent. You can make arguments around people not knowing what's in them, which means that they're not truly getting proper informed consent. You can make arguments around the potential harm that they can cause. You can make arguments around their lack of efficacy. You can attack the actual premise that they're based on around the experiments they do in virology. So the particular point I'm making in this instance is that people don't know what's in them and that many people would object to what's in them. I'm not alleging that these ingredients are harmful.
Okay, but I understand where you're coming from. That informed consent matters, but still, if it's still beneficial to the population as a whole, it's beneficial. But I do think that informed consent does matter, and people should be aware of this. But you're demonizing it in a way.
Demonizing what?
You're still demonizing vaccines. You're like they're full of all this stuff, and these people don't know. So you're still demonizing vaccines. You're anti-vax.
Do you worship vaccines?
No, I don't.
So you agree
worship
that there are
vaccines.
negative things about vaccines, right?
Not every medication has a fault.
Okay,
that's part of medicine.
so you're attacking me, or you're criticizing me, I should say.
I
You're
wanna
criticizing
bring
me
it
for
around.
demonizing. You're criticizing me and accusing me of demonizing vaccines, but you just agreed with me.
No.
You just
No,
agreed that you are
no,
pro informed consent and you think people should know what's in the
No,
vaccine.
this is-
So
I
every
understand that you take-
point
I
I've made
understand
this
you take a lot
live,
of
you have
debate
just
classes.
agreed with them.
I understand. No, I understand you take a lot of debate classes and you try talking.
What
really fast
point-
and
what
long,
point-
but that doesn't make you right.
What point
The
have I made this live that you disagree with?
The point that I'm making that I disagree with is that you're trying to paint vaccines as
Tell
this
me
big
a
problem that-
specific point I've made this live that you disagree with.
Okay, it's the way that it. Oh wait. Okay.
Oh, it's just the tone, right?
No, it's far more than.
Tell
just
us what point I've made that you disagree with.
One of the biggest issue I'd say that I have regarding this whole anti-vaccine rhetoric is it's disingenuous.
You disagree with
it. No.
Okay, you
if
go.
You're as educated, all right, let me go. If you're as educated as what you're saying, and you're saying that, hey, I'm not saying all these parts of the material that are in vaccines are bad for you, just people should just know about it. But then if you know they're not bad, then why are you? Okay, what am I trying to say?
I didn't finish.
Oh yeah. All right. 1 second.
I didn't say that I know they're not bad. I said people don't know what's in them. So the particular point I'm making right now is that people don't know what's in them. That's the only point I've made so far this live. I go live hours on end sometimes and I make multiple different points. I'm asking you, what do you disagree with that I've said so far?
I disagree with the fact that you're bringing up that you keep on bringing up fetal tissue, like how fetal tissue is being used and all this kind of stuff. Let me finish. Is being used in vaccines and why this is all bad. While you should also know that that same fetal tissue is being used, is researched in all kinds of different medications, used in Tylenol, used in everything across the board. If
I
you
disagree
take,
with
if you take okay then. Then you're anti-vax. You're talking specifically about vaccines, but you don't want to include the fact that it's used across the board. That same fetal tissue that is being used to research vaccines. Yeah, guess what? Well, if you have a problem with that, then you should better not take fucking Tylenol either.
I don't.
Okay, so you're okay, or any medication. Then if you're dying and you need to go take an antibiotic, don't take it.
What does antibiotics have to do with that?
Because they use that fetal tissue to research the different fetal tissues to research every medication.
Okay, so disagreeing with the use of fetal tissues in experimentation, does that without people having proper informed consent around it, does that mean that I'm against antibiotics?
Yes, it
How?
does. No, because it's disingenuous. You're like, I'm not going to take a vaccine. No, because you're over here. I'm not going to take a vaccine because vaccines use fetal tissue for research.
I never said that.
But meanwhile, I'm going to go take an antibiotic.
I never said that. I never said that. That's why I don't take vaccines. One,
disingenuous.
I never said that. I never said that. That's why I don't take vaccines. One, and two. Do you agree that somebody could be against animal experimentation but still be in agreement that certain pharmaceuticals are good?
Very, very few. Very, very few.
So you can be against experimentation that uses certain human beings or uses animals and not necessarily be against the actual medication, right? So you can raise an objection to how something is produced and not necessarily be saying that it doesn't have efficacy, right?
Right. So what you're saying is, yeah, you're saying it can be effective, but you don't agree with the way that it's made.
I'm not claiming that vaccines are effective. I'm saying that so far this live, the only point I have raised is with respect to people not knowing. I mean, Amy did raise a point that I did say that viruses are man-made, but that is a fact that viruses are actually made in labs. But that's how they culture them. Do you dispute that?
Yeah, absolutely. Not every virus is made in a lab.
Every single virus that's ever been isolated has been isolated in a lab. They do the isolation in a lab. So viruses are made in labs.
No, they're found in labs. There's a big difference between being found in a lab and create a lab. Do I think some viruses are? Absolutely, I do think that does take place.
The isolation process is itself a synthesis.
No.
Okay, tell us. Let's go through. I love this part. Let's go through the isolation process of virus. Tell us how it's not. Let's break down step by step how a virus is isolated.
Sure. There are viruses, my friend, that affect other animals, not even humans whatsoever. And it spreads from animal to animal, not human, not sapien, doesn't affect us or monkeys or primates.
That's great. That's a nice assumption. But every single virus that's ever been discovered was isolated in a lab. So tell us. Let's get any viral isolation. Pick any virus you want, and I'll break down to you how it is made in a lab.
It's not. It's discovered in a lab.
Okay.
It's like
pick a virus.
It's like electricity and lightning.
Pick any virus.
No, I'm not going to, because this is a disingenuous argument. It's frankly obvious.
Oh, you don't want to go into it?
Illogical.
You don't want to go into it?
Because because
You're
I just
scared.
gave you a perfect example.
You're scared.
I'm not scared at all.
Okay, pick a virus. Let's go into the study that we can pick on any credible study you want about how virus is isolated. Let's go into it. We can pick any virus. I've got time. I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to kick you.
Okay. I'll entertain you, but entertain me for 1 second.
Sure.
Is the flu a virus?
I don't believe the flu is caused by a virus. No.
What is it caused by then? Genuine, quite like if you don't think.
I think that flu is a syndrome, which is a set of symptoms, and I think it can be caused by numerous different things. It can be caused by malnutrition, changes in weather. It can be caused by toxicity. It can be caused by particulates in the air. All of those things can cause a person to have flu-like symptoms. I don't believe that a virus can.
Do you believe in bacteria then? Like I don't.
Yes, I believe in bacteria, and bacteria produce bacterial toxins when they're in certain environments, when they're introduced to certain things and they're introduced to certain organic or inorganic materials. Bacteria can be observed producing toxins, and those toxins can make people sick. You can introduce bacterial toxins to a person and make them sick.
Viruses can be too. They literally can be. That's what they are too. Just like bacteria, I mean, they're much larger than viruses. But just like bacteria can be imaged, with microscopes, electron microscopes, being seen and all that kind of stuff, very small, causing damage to other, our cells in our body. Viruses can be seen too. They have been been seen with our technology.
What can be seen is within a cell culture, you can see the product, as in the viral isolate. You can see the viral isolate causing damage to other tissues, but you cannot, within a human body, see a virus get produced from an external, due to an external agent causing it to be produced and then begin to cause harm within a human body. That's never been seen. The only thing that they really can image using electron microscopy is the viral isolate, and the viral isolate is the product of the viral isolation process, which is a synthesis.
You can isolate and see the virus.
Tell us how. Let's go into it.
You can.
Tell us how.
It is. You can.
Okay, tell us how.
I don't know the specifics, but I know they do have the magnification able to specify and say this is a virus, and they can see it. Like it's just they can. Man.
What they see is
I can't argue against that. I can't argue against it.
Yeah, I know you can't argue against it because you don't know about it.
No, I mean, like, I can't argue against someone that doesn't believe in, like, that's a fact.
Why is it a fact? Tell us how. So you said you don't know about it, but you're saying it's a fact. That's unscientific. You don't know anything about something, you're claiming it's a fact?
You're saying that the flu isn't real, my friend.
No, I said the flu is real. I said it's not caused by a virus.
By a virus, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Do you know that the scientific consensus used to be that the flu is caused by a bacteria? Not long ago. So they didn't even used to believe it was caused by a virus. They used to believe it was caused by a bacteria. Did you know that?
Yeah, they also didn't know what a germ was if you go far back enough. So,
And do you know that the reason why it's called the flu is because influenza is short for influenza delle stelle, which means influence of the stars, because the same charlatans that preach virology to you used to believe that the movement of the stars is what caused influenza. So every generation they update the lie, the mysticism with new paradigms to keep people like you who are dependent on the rhetoric from the pharmaceutical mafia like a child to a teat. They update it every generation or so with new, like for example, how now they never, have you noticed how now when they make vaccines they never actually claim, oh, this actually stops you getting the disease. What they claim now is it reduces the symptoms when you get the disease. So the rhetoric's updated, and then they've changed the definition of what a vaccine is to include pharmaceutical preparations are actually just biotechnology preparations, right? And then they now call that a vaccine and say, oh, a vaccine is actually something that helps to provide immunity. But before, vaccines were more associated with actual inoculation, right? So now they can make all kinds of pharmaceutical preparations and call them vaccines, and you'll take them because you have a religious affinity to the idea of vaccines.
I have a religious affinity.
Yeah.
I'm the one on the T. Okay, and then the irony here is, and then you mentioned mysticism.
Yeah,
when you mentioned
that's where virology comes from. Sorry, go on.
No, and the mysticism here is asking you, where does the flu come from? What is the flu? And then you just come up with some like woo-woo voodoo about like what causes the flu.
No, I told you what the flu is. I told you that the flu is a syndrome. I told you that the flu is a syndrome.
Of what?
A syndrome is a set of different a set of different symptoms that a person has that constitute a recognized condition, right? And when you said what causes it, I clearly responded to you and I told you that it can be caused by multiple things. Did you not hear that?
No, I did not hear that. Then
okay,
what
you should have been paying attention. I gave multiple examples. I gave you multiple examples like changes in the weather, malnutrition, toxicity. Did you not hear me say any of those things?
Okay, then why does it happen to be that if like one person in a family catches the flu, then the whole rest of the family catches the flu? But you go to the house next door that's experiencing the same weather, the same everything like that, and then none of them will catch it.
Show me a repeatable study that proves that happens.
I can show you a lot of repeatable studies.
Show me a single one.
That the flu is a virus. That the flu is a virus. I can show you a lot of repeatable studies.
There is a virus that they create in a lab called the flu virus. It's not contagious. It is just a sequence of mRNA that changes every time they do the isolation. And so they say, oh, it mutates. And by the way, did you know that when you get the flu vaccine, that they are actually predicting what the base sequence of the vaccine for the next year of flu outbreaks is going to be? Did you know that?
I am aware of that. Yeah, it's an educated guess.
So how did it... So you're getting a vaccine to protect against something that they don't even know the base sequence of yet.
Okay. Then explain to me why that people who get the flu, especially elderly individuals that we're talking about here, like multiple people die, thousands of people die every year in America. I don't know about England. 1,000 people in America die every year from the flu, like they do.
Because they get.
Let me finish. Particularly the elderly, particularly people with chronic illnesses. Explain to me why the ones that get the flu vaccine tend to be better off, to be more likely to be alive than those that actually get the vaccine.
I can tell you why. It's because when they make vaccine preparations, they don't just make one iteration of them. They make hundreds. Sometimes they make thousands. And then they do studies on all of these different ones until they get studies that show this one reduced the incidence of something, and then they attribute causality to it. But if the study doesn't show anything, they'll say, let's tweak it a bit and move on to the next one. So they keep on doing the studies with different preparations until they find a preparation that coincidentally reduces the incidence of something. They have license to do that.
So it wouldn't be coincidentally, and that's the thing is like by default, what you don't even recognize what you're doing is you're admitting that they're doing something right, that they're recognizing, and the whole point of the flu vaccine is that it's designed to fight the flu.
No,
so
I'm admitting that there are studies where there's correlations between a person taking something and having a reduced incidence in something. But I'm saying that simply because there's a correlation doesn't necessarily mean that that thing is the causal factor in why there's a reduction in the incidence of something.
You don't understand, but by default, you just admitted, like what you said, you just admitted that that the flu is a virus, that it's real. Because
No, I didn't.
the whole point behind the flu vaccine is it is designed to fight the virus. And if you're saying that they're tweaking it to be able to be more effective, then by
I didn't
default,
say
then
that
it
they're
should be more
tweaking it
effective
to.
at fighting the virus.
I didn't say that they're tweaking it for it to be more effective. I said that they can make different vaccine preparations that have subtle changes between each one, and if that preparation doesn't reduce incidence, if they do a study and there's no reduction in incidence, they will discard that study and they'll keep on doing it until they get a study that shows a reduced incidence. But simply having a reduced incidence does not mean in that study that there was a causal relationship. Do you understand that?
No, what you're not understanding is then what is it that makes it effective? You're saying
It's
saying
not
that
effective. It's a coincidence.
Oh, so there's coincidences every year, because every year the people that get the flu vaccine fare better, fewer die every year. That's a fact. Even if it's still an educated guess, fewer die every year. How is that a coincidence? If it happens every fucking year.
So you're saying that every single flu vaccine that has been made reduces the incidence of the flu?
By a long shot, yes.
Okay.
By a long shot.
So let me ask you a question. If I make 1,000 flu vaccines and 900 of them don't do anything, and then year after year, the 100 that seem to reduce incidence, I release them out one after the other, are flu vaccines really effective, or are they only cherry picking the vaccines that show studies that are sympathetic to what they want?
No, there's no cherry picking there. They make an educated guess every year. That's the vaccine that's rolled out, and the people that get it fare better than those that don't get it. That's a fact. So I don't understand that's not a coincidence. If you said that this was, if it happened like once every 10 years they got it right and people did better, sure, it was a coincidence. But no, every single year, if you get the flu vaccine, you are better off. Yes.
When you say better off, you're not talking about not getting the flu, right? You're talking about
less likely to be hospitalized and less likely to die. Yeah.
Yeah, it's less likely to be hospitalized with a condition. So when if somebody's in hospital and they have a condition, are they considered to be a case of being hospitalized with that condition?
Repeat that.
If somebody has a condition, so let's say I'm in hospital, right, for something else. I broke my leg, I'm in hospital, and then I get the flu, right? Am I considered to be hospitalized with a condition?
If you break your... One more time.
If I break my leg and I'm in the hospital, yeah, and while I'm in the hospital, I get the flu and I'm diagnosed with the flu, according to the data, I would be considered to be hospitalized with the flu, right?
You would be hospitalized with the flu.
Exactly. So in the data points would show I would be a case of somebody who is hospitalized and has the flu, right?
Right.
Exactly. So that means that you can even account for increased likelihood of being hospitalized with something due to the fact that a person who's in hospital is more likely to be diagnosed with the flu.
No, that is not.
You don't want to believe that is something that taints the narrative around somebody being hospitalized with something.
No. Okay, I would.
You've never looked into it. That's the problem.
I've never looked into it. Okay, yeah. I want. This is gonna be a
because otherwise you would concede. That actually makes sense. That is something you would. Otherwise you would concede. Otherwise you would concede. Actually, that does make sense. That is something that I hope they look into, and you would find the studies and say, yeah, okay, it looks like this study does control for that. This study doesn't control for that. Some studies, I'm sure, will control for that feature of being hospitalized with something, but many studies do not. And there are studies that can get past the JCVI just simply based on them not causing harm over a long-term period. It doesn't. Efficacy is such an ethereal concept when you're talking about someone being hospitalized with something. So tell me, have you seen evidence to suggest that they definitely only characterize hospitalizations as someone that is only hospitalized with the flu? Have you seen evidence to suggest that?
There are people that absolutely are hospitalized with just the flu.
I know that, but I'm saying when they do the data analysis, are they considering that there are people that are hospitalized? Because obviously they would have to include people that are hospitalized for other reasons that also get the flu, because they still constitute a case of the flu, right?
Yeah, they still take.
So that influences statistics around whether someone's hospitalized or something. So don't you think it's convenient that they don't ever use studies to say, oh, you're less likely to die of the flu. Oh, you're less likely to catch the flu. They say, oh, you're less likely to be hospitalized with the flu. Isn't that a convenient metric to use to measure the efficacy of the flu vaccine?
No, but wouldn't they do the exact? Wouldn't that disprove what you're saying? That if they're putting all these people in the hospital and giving everyone saying that they're, if they're there for a broken leg and that they do have the flu, and just admitting them and saying, oh, we've got all these flu vaccine admissions. No, wouldn't that go against what you're saying? Like
I'm not saying that they're doing it on purpose. I'm saying it's a feature of how they do the analysis. They are characterizing people who are in hospital with a condition as hospitalized with that condition, but people who are in hospital are more likely to be diagnosed with conditions.
Then in your case, what you're saying, then the flu, then the vaccine would that wouldn't help the argument that you're making that the vaccine is not effective. Or the vaccine is not effective. You know what I'm saying? If they're just, I can't make it. I can't make it more. But here's a groundbreaking information. I am a nurse. I worked C-19 from the very, very, very beginning.
Why is that groundbreaking?
Oh, because
I already could tell that you. I already could tell. I could already tell that you work in the medical industry because of how brainwashed you are.
No, because of how informed I am about this.
You're not informed at all. You clearly even admitted that you're not informed.
I remember very, very specifically working from C-19 from the very beginning. All of the people that were in there, and then the minute that the vaccine was created, we had a whiteboard. We have a whiteboard of people. And every one of them we put down if they were vaccinated or not once the vaccine was eventually created after a few months, several months. And we would put down if they're vaccinated or not. Guess what? I'll give the panel. Do y'all want to guess? Guess what? The majority, almost all of the people after the vaccine was created, we had very few. It was unvaccinated. So it aligns exactly what the science was saying, that the unvaccinated people fared worse, that we're getting more critically sick. We're the ones that were getting unalived. So, but what do I know, right? What do I know? It's just anecdotal evidence from me that goes along with what the science says.
Okay, you're saying that there's studies that show that people who are unvaccinated are less likely to die of COVID. Is it just of COVID, or are you talking about all cause mortality?
No. Okay. So I am saying that people who get the vaccine are less likely to die from COVID.
But that's not what the studies show. The studies show that they have symptoms that are not as severe. So you're actually making a claim that's a false. They've never actually said that.
No, that is not a false. What I'm saying is people who get the vaccine. No.
So wait, let me get this. Let me just get this crystallized. Just so that I understand. You are claiming now that the vaccine reduces the likelihood of death from COVID. Is that what you're claiming?
That is exactly what I'm claiming.
And it doesn't make the symptoms less severe? Is that what you're saying?
It does both. It makes the symptoms less severe and decreases the chance of death.
Okay, and what study did you see that shows this?
I can pull it up, but I mean, I'll let you pull it up. Pull it up. Here we go. Tell me what you find, because I know I'm right.
Okay. So the effect is strongest in preventing severe illness, hospitalization, and death. That's what it says with regards to the COVID vaccines. It's talking about with later variants, the relative protection against infection decreased, but the protection against death remained substantial. For example, CDC data in 2022 showed that boosted individuals were still around 10 to 15 times less likely to die of COVID-19 compared with unvaccinated individuals. Let's put up the source for it.
Yeah, so that's what I just said.
Yeah, that is what you said. But you weren't able to pull up a study. That's why I'm having to do the due diligence.
If I'm that sure of it, I'm literally telling you, pull it up yourself.
No, that's fine. I am pulling it up.
Yeah. Okay. I've done all the dude. I worked in this. I lived this for multiple years. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say shit that's just bullshit.
Well, you've already said multiple things that are bullshit.
Oh, not as much as you.
Okay. So, being against COVID was over. Mortality was over 90%. I would have to look into this a bit later, but effectively,
what is there to look into?
Well, the thing is, let's take what you're saying for granted. Let's say that the vaccine reduces the incidence of death and reduces the incidence of hospitalization, etc.
It does.
That's fine. Let's say it does, right? Does that mean if you take a product and it reduces?
No. I want to get one thing clear. Let's not. No, it's not. No, let's say it does. No, you just pull. I said it. You pulled up a site. It claimed what I said was right. It's not. Let's say it's right. Okay.
Yeah, that's what that study says. Yeah.
Okay.
But I haven't read the study.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, right? if you take a product and it reduces your likelihood of death, does that mean that that product necessarily it cures the condition that they're claiming that it cures? For example, like
No, it doesn't. You're full of shit right there. It doesn't claim it cures
I'm not
it.
claiming it is. I'm asking you questions around the efficacy.
It doesn't cure. So you're pivoting. It doesn't.
No. I'm not pivoting. I'm not pivoting. I said let's.
Cure it.
No. I said let's take what you're saying for granted, right? I'm asking you, when you talk about virology, when you talk about the concept of a virus causing your sickness, if you can take a preparation that reduces your likelihood of death or reduces your likelihood of being hospitalized, does that mean that that product is actually protecting you from a virus? In other words, is like, okay, let's say for example I take a product that increases my lifespan. Does that mean that it's increasing my lifespan because it's acting against the thing that I say is causing me to have a reduced lifespan? Or does it mean that that product can have some kind of efficacy that isn't related to actually you catching a virus? Do you get what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, but frankly, it's bullshit, because the whole reason why this product is created is because to fight or fix X.
Perfect. That's what I'm getting to. That's what I'm getting to. That's what I'm getting to. So, can you substantiate in terms of the efficacy of the COVID vaccine? Can you substantiate how? Let's go step by step from the evidence that suggests a person can catch the COVID virus, right? Then the evidence that the COVID virus is the causative agent of the person's sickness. Then the evidence that the vaccine acts against the COVID virus in order to produce this effect, which I'm granting you based on this study. I'm saying, okay, let's assume that it does reduce the mortality and hospitalizations. Walk me through the process from the isolation of a virus from the individual to the introduction of a vaccine to the individual and then their supposed immunity. Walk me through that process.
I can't go from step A to step Z. I can't do that because I'm not a microbiologist that is specifically, doing this.
But you're claiming that you know this stuff.
But logic should stand. Logic should clearly stand that this material that is created, this vaccine is created, and is created with people that are knowledgeable and saying, "Hey, it is to fight." But the thing is, if your argument, hold on. So then how does it work?
But the thing is, if your argument is that you're deferring to what the experts are saying, then what's the point in even having the discussion? Because I'm asking you what caused you to come to the conclusion. You've said that this is what the study shows. Fine, I've said let's assume that that's what the study shows. Walk me through how you know that this vaccine, if it's producing the effect that you're saying it's producing, walk me through how it's actually combating a virus and the evidence that suggests that the virus is the causative agent of the person's sickness.
The cause is because if that is what that it's fighting against. That's what it is created for. They're saying,
okay,
this is an this is a vaccine. This is what it's supposed to fight.
Okay, I got some interesting challenges for you, right? Because remember, we've granted you what you're saying in the study just for the purpose of argument. I want to ask you some more specific questions. Okay, does the viral load of an individual correlate with their likelihood of being sick with COVID?
The viral load?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So you're saying there's a correlation between the viral load of an individual and how sick they are?
No, I'm not positive about that. I don't.
There isn't. Okay, I can tell you there isn't. Okay, can a person be an asymptomatic carrier? In other words, have no symptoms and test positive?
Yeah,
okay.
I do.
And can a person have symptoms and test negative?
I mean, it could, but yeah, I mean, it could be just something random. Yeah.
Yeah, a person can have symptoms, COVID-like symptoms, and test negative. Okay, so when you do a test on a person and the PCR test determines that there's sufficient presence of an RNA sequence that, or if they do an antibody test and detect that there's sufficient presence of antibodies that suggest that this person is COVID positive, how do you know that the presence of this thing is the causative agent of their sickness? Can you answer that for me?
That is extremely vague.
It's not vague. It's a very direct question.
No, it is. If someone is presenting with X, Y, or Z symptoms, if they are, and we know that, hey, we're saying this virus that we have seen specifically in a lab pops up very frequently in these individuals that are presenting with X, Y, and Z symptoms, then it probably is that virus that's causing X,
most
Y,
people are asymptomatic, so there actually isn't a correlation between people who have the positive test and people who have the symptoms.
It's just I can't, dude. And it's
I
I'm
know
not
you
conceding.
don't want to contend with anything that challenges your worldview because you defer to experts. When I actually start presenting you information, I've seen the information that you've presented, and I'm happy to look into it, right? But
I defer to world experts.
when I raise a challenge that befuddles you, you just try to say, oh well, we shouldn't talk about that. Why don't we talk about it? Let's have an open discussion. I'm willing to accept if there's things that I don't know, but let's have a real discussion about it where you actually get my real arguments and not the arguments that you want me to have. Where you get my crystallized real arguments.
Your arguments are disingenuous at best.
No. You're attacking my credibility and you're attacking my my motivation. Why don't you actually contend with the things that I'm actually saying? So just answer this question for me, right? If there's no correlation between the positive test and having the symptoms, how do you know that the positive test is proving that causality, that this positive test is indicative of this thing causing the symptoms that the person has?
I've got to go, bro.
Okay, you don't want to answer that question. Okay, that's fine.
No,
that's fine.
I've literally got to take a shit.
No, that's fine. You don't have to stay. I appreciate you speaking. Okay, let's get to some comments. I think Amy wants to come up as well. Let's speak to Amy. What's up, Amy?
Oh.
Hello. Right. So I'll let you speak first, so you can tell me what your issues are with my narrative. Then I'll rebut, and then I'll present that same question to you.
Yeah, so, well, I initially requested when you were talking about isolating viruses and also imaging viruses.
Yeah.
I work in virology and bioimaging, so I thought I could give some insight into that.
Perfect.
And then just on the last point you were talking about the why would someone test positive? The PCR tests are for the viral genome, so if you didn't harbor the viral genome, then you wouldn't test positive.
Yeah.
So if
Apparently.
you're ill,
So you're alleging that the presence of the viral genome is the causative agent of sickness?
yeah, you wouldn't
Okay.
have the viral genome.
Okay, so
unless
tell
you have the virus.
wait, you said you wouldn't have the viral genome unless you have the virus, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if a person has the viral genome but they're not sick, then that shows that it's possible to have the virus and that the virus may not be a causative agent of the sickness, right?
Well, that would show that you're fighting the virus well and you're not
No,
getting symptoms.
but you must concede that that is not evidence that the virus is a causative agent of sickness. So what's the evidence that the virus is causing the sickness?
You can have a virus and not be sick.
Tell us what the evidence that the virus is the causative agent of the sickness, though.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for example, I work in chickens. I work in a coronavirus that infects chickens, and when we do animal studies with chickens, we have a control group. So we have non-infected chickens, we have infected chickens, and then we have vaccinated chickens that are infected, and also vaccinated chickens that aren't infected. So you have lots of different controls, and you'll notice, so the IBV, the virus that I work on, the chickens get sick, they have symptoms, they start snicking and coughing when you provide them with the virus.
How do you provide them with the virus?
So you usually do, it's like a nasal, you put like a little oxygen mask type thing on them, pump it through their lungs, which is how they would get it through aerosols normally.
Yep.
So
And the thing that you're providing them is the viral isolate that you made in the lab, right?
No, well,
Where do you get the sample from?
So the initial samples will be from field isolates. So what you do is you swab a chicken that is experiencing symptoms,
Yeah.
and you will place the inoculum onto competent cells. So we usually use primary chicken kidney cells,
Yeah.
which are able to replicate the virus. You can amplify them. Then you can do PCR tests and ELISA tests to check for the viral proteins.
So it's a viral. So it is
genome.
a viral isolate.
Yeah, we've isolated it from the field where.
You didn't
we're
just
finding
isolate it. You also apply antibiotics to the sample as well, right?
No.
Yes, you do, to ensure that there aren't contaminants when you do the viral isolation. There's antibiotics present. There's a
Well, yeah.
cell nutrient sample present.
Yeah,
Yep,
I guess.
yep,
I'm not sure what your
yep.
point is.
So this viral isolate is something that is manufactured in the lab using the kidney cell of the monkeys.
I think that's a big
of
jump.
the chickens. How is that a big
That's-
jump?
that's a
You
big
stated
jump.
that you get external cells from a chicken, and then you I'm sure you centrifuge it, right? You centrifuge it. You separate the sample out. You don't. Well, I'm sure you do a centrifugation on a
Centrifuge
raw
what?
on the raw sample in order to get the isolate. So you're
What,
breaking
on the
down.
raw virus?
Not on the raw virus. You get the sample from the chicken, and then you have to isolate it from the other particulates that would be in the sample. So you usually would do a centrifugation. Yes, you do. So usually you would do centrifugation.
I do it, you don't.
So you're saying that when you get, okay, tell us. So you get the sample, right? What do you do to the sample? Tell us.
Right, okay, so you get a sample, and you would, well, first you'd probably PCR it first. So you amplify the genome, and you're checking using fluorescent probes whether there are markers for specific genes that are noted to be for your virus. And that's how you check that you have the
and
virus.
you compare that to a database, right?
Compare what to a database?
You compare that genome sequence to the genome sequences that you already have in database.
We're not sequencing, so we're using probes. So that's a short section of DNA that will have a fluorescent probe on it.
Yeah, but the sections that you're targeting are based on known sections that are in your databases.
They will be from genomes collected in a reference.
Exactly, it's a reference database. Yeah. Okay. So then, you do the comparison, and then after that, what do you do to the sample in order to turn it to a virus?
Once we've confirmed that we have the virus that we're expecting, we then add the sample to a competent cell line, such as chicken kidney cells.
Yeah.
And that will basically build up the virus, so we have more stocks of it.
But you don't just have the virus by getting the sample. You have to first separate the sample, right?
Well, usually a nasal swab. When you're amplifying the when you infect cells with your virus isolate, the only thing that's going to be amplified there is your virus, because that's the only thing that can infect.
No, the problem is you're skipping steps. You keep going from the sample to the isolate. I'm asking you how you're getting from the sample to now what you're describing as the isolate, because an isolate obviously is something that you've performed a viral isolation on, and the process of, I mean, do you do that part of the process, the viral isolation?
Yeah.
So tell us how it goes from a sample to a viral isolate.
I have.
You haven't?
I have.
You haven't? Tell us. You have the sample, you swab it. You swab it. No, you swab it. After you swab it, what do you do to it?
After I swab what? I put it into a pH buffer.
Right. Okay, now you've introduced one other thing. So you put it into a pH buffer, then
I will PCR it.
Then you PCR just the sample without doing any isolation on it.
I mean, yeah, sure, you can do a cleanup. You can, I don't know, you can put it through a filter to get rid of.
Oh, so you do filter it, and is centrifugation a method of filtration?
No, I mean,
yes. So you do filter it. Okay, so
not always.
Well, you have to filter it, because if you take a sample from a chicken, it has other things in it.
Yeah, but when you
other than the virus, right?
When you add it to the cells, then that's not really going to affect what actually infects your cells.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But the reality of what I'm trying to say is, you've done something to it to take it from just a sample to a viral isolate. So when you produce the viral isolate, that's what you're introducing to the chickens, right? It's not that you're taking the sample and then introducing it to the chickens. You're turning the sample to a viral isolate, then introducing it to the chickens, right?
I'm a little bit lost at where you're claiming that something is manufactured here.
Because
all we're doing is taking our swabs and amplifying those viruses. Nothing's changed about the viruses in those steps.
No. But you've remember, cells are like manufacturing hubs themselves. Cells can produce proteins on their membranes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When you take biological information, right? Like when you take RNA or whatever, and you introduce it to a cell, the thing you're describing as a protein was manufactured by the chicken's kidney cell, right?
Yeah, you're aware that
hold on. It expresses it on its surface, right? So you're actually taking the product of the kidney cell, and you introduce what you introduced to the kidney cell is the viral isolate, right?
Which is no different to the virus that we've taken straight from the chicken.
It is different because you've done multiple processes to it. You also do introduce antibiotics to ensure that it doesn't get contaminated. You
And antibiotics
centrifuge
don't,
it.
in
If
fact-
you don't centrifuge it, there's another form of filtration that you use on it. Like you said, you put it in a pH buffer. When you put the kidney cells there, you put a nutrient solution with the kidney cell as well, right?
And none of these things affect viruses.
No, but what I'm trying to explain to you is that you are cultivating an environment to allow the kidney cell to produce something on its membrane, right?
We're creating an environment which is as similar as we can possibly get to the internal organs of a chicken.
It's not similar to the internal organs of a chicken. It's a sterile lab environment where you introduce a viral isolate that has been taken from its natural constituent sample and then isolated. It's been and then you culture it, you introduce it to the kidney cell, and the thing that you introduce to the kidney cell is distinctly different from the actual sample, because you have to do multiple things to it in order to take it from a sample into a viral isolate.
What exactly do you think will change with a virus if you put it in a slightly different pH or a slightly different cell? What do you think is changing?
Well, you're changing, first of all, it's not in the body's internal environment. That's for one thing. So it's not in the natural environment that it would otherwise be in. It has antibiotics in it as well. I don't know if you're aware of that. You guys might call it something else, but they always use antibiotic preparations.
Yeah,
So
we use antibiotics.
Well, okay, thank you very much. So antibiotics are more often than not fungal preparations, right? So you're introducing external fungi in order to stop the contamination, right? Because antibiotics are usually fungi. So remember, you said what are we changing? We've already introduced, filtered it, so it's not part of its normal constituent environment. Then we've introduced fungi, because antibiotics are essentially fungi most of the time. So now it's now in the. Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
You don't know that antibiotics are made with fungi?
They're active ingredients taken from fungi, but it's not.
So why are you pretending that that's not what I'm
fungus
saying?
in your cells.
I didn't tell you putting fungus. I said that you're
Yes, you did.
you're introducing something that is made from fungi, which is an external. It's an external component, right? So
But it doesn't impact a virus at all.
you're saying it doesn't impact the virus, but your allegation previously was that there's no difference between the virus and what you get from the viral isolate. But I'm showing you that the things that you introduce to it make it different. Because if I have something that's simply a virus, right, and then I have something that's a virus with the presence of an antibiotic, and I have something that's a virus with the presence of nutrient, an antibiotic, and a third-party chicken kidney cell, the product that is produced on the cell of that chicken kidney, on the chicken kidney cell, is not going to be this. That's not an environment that mirrors the environment of the human body. So the chicken kidney cell is producing something based on the environment that you have created for it. So when you take that,
what about when we grow viruses in eggs? Forget about the chicken kidney cells. What about viruses in eggs?
it's a similar process.
It's not the similar process.
Every process, everything that is denoted a virus is a viral isolate. There is no such thing as a virus that isn't a viral isolate.
And what exactly do you think changes about the virus when you put it in a different environment?
I think that because cells are living, when you introduce different environments to living cells, they behave in an abnormal manner. I believe that when you take this sample from the chicken, in your example, and then you start doing these other things to it, because it's in such a abnormal environment, and because it has the presence of other contaminants in it, I don't believe that the kidney cell behaves in the same way that it would behave in the human body. I believe that the proteins that it produces on the outside of the cell could potentially be toxic, and that's why when you introduce them to the chickens in a controlled environment, that's why they can make people sick, make the chicken sick.
Okay, well, you would be wrong in all of that.
Okay, how is it wrong?
Because this has been shown on multiple occasions. You can take direct isolates, no impact at all. You can directly swab a chicken, and you can place that isolate into an electron microscope, and you can grow a virus in cells and put that
again. That's another isolation. You can get the same RNA sequence, but simply having the same RNA sequence does not mean that two things are identical. Obviously, they're not, because one is directly from a sample and the other one is a viral isolate. So you can still get the same RNA sequence, but the reality is that you don't do a study by just getting the sample and introducing it to the chickens, do you?
No, because we
Aha.
amplify it.
So
because we know
if you did that,
there's no difference.
would it actually make the chicken sick though? That's the question.
If I did what?
If you just introduced the sample to the chicken, would it make the chicken sick, do you think?
That's such a funny thing because how do you think viruses spread?
No,
naturally?
tell us. In the experimentation, have you ever
Okay,
not done the
okay.
isolation and just introduced the
This
sample
happens-
to the chicken?
This happens in the real world when you have one.
No, you're
sick chicken
alleging
in
that-
colony
you're alleging that it
and
happens.
it coughs on another chicken.
No.
That other chicken will get sick.
No, that's what you're
been
alleging.
proven.
That's what you're alleging happens. It has not been proven.
Yes,
No, it
that's
hasn't.
basic biology.
No, it hasn't.
Yes, it has.
No, you're presupposing that happens, right? So let me ask you this, right? You've just conceded that you only do the experimentation with the viral isolates, right?
Yes, I've
Okay,
never claimed
that's fine.
different.
So essentially, you don't actually know because you've never done the experiment without using the viral isolate. You've never done it with just the sample, have you?
I'm so confused.
I know you're
because
confused. I know you're
this
confused because you're
happens
wrapped
in
up
real life.
into the dogma of virology. That's why you're not thinking critically. You've never think
I
about
am
it. You've
thinking
never
I'm
okay.
thinking very
You're saying
critically
it happens
of
in real life, but we're not talking about real life. We're talking about the lab process. We're talking about the actual experiment, right? You would have to do. You can't just. I could say anything happens in real life based on my experience or based on my perception. I'm saying to you, when you do the experiment, why do you not do the experiment with just the sample? Don't you think that would actually be
Because there isn't enough virus in the sample. You have to amplify it.
Oh, okay. So now you're saying, right, that there isn't enough virus to actually produce the effect that you want to produce in the lab setting, but you're saying that in reality, it doesn't matter how much virus there is, you can produce that in human beings. So when you want to do it in the
Right.
lab, there's not enough virus. But when
Can I
you want to do it
explain?
in reality, you don't claim that there's not enough virus.
Can I explain?
Sure.
Right. So when we take a singular nose swab from a chicken, you're sampling a tiny aspect of that chicken. When a chicken coughs on another chicken and a singular virus gets into the cells, it then replicates multiple times. That's all we're doing in the CK cells is we're taking that viral swab with a couple of particles of virus and we're amplifying it in another cell. That's all that happens in real life when you go from one chicken to another.
In real life, they are alleging that the actual sample, when it hasn't undergone a viral isolation, they're saying that sample makes people sick, right? Like somebody's saliva or something like that, right? So when they do the experiment, why don't they just do the experiments with the sample without doing the isolation to see if it produces the same effects? It's because it doesn't. It's because it doesn't produce the same effects. It produces the
How do you
effect.
know?
I know because I've looked into it. That you can look into human challenge studies with COVID. You can look into all kinds of different studies. They don't. It's never been shown that you can produce the same effect by simply using the sample. You can only produce the same effect after you do the viral isolation, and then you create this kidney cell, or it's usually a kidney cell, that has this toxic protein that it produces on its surface. Then they use that, and that thing can make people sick because it's a toxic substance that's been produced by the cell. But that thing usually doesn't produce the same symptoms as the actual disease. And also, when you use the sample, it's never been shown that just using the sample makes the people sick. In other words, there's actually no evidence for viral contagion.
Okay, that's complete nonsense. Yes,
Well,
the virus
you are a
itself
victim of the
feels
dogma. So
isolate.
you don't want to even think about the fact that everything that
Mate,
you do
I
is actually
study
based on
this
junk
for a
science.
living.
I know, but it's wrong. It's
Right,
based on junk
okay.
science. It's like an imam of Islam. He believes that because he studies it day in, day out, that he's right. But I've presented, I've shown you that there's a fundamental flaw in how the study is done, but you don't want to accept it because, of course, the scientific community, this is the basis of virology, right? So if what I'm saying is true, then it would mean that virology is nonsense, right? Which it is.
So are you saying that viruses don't change quickly with, like, proteins are sturdy little things. They're not just going to change with a centrifugation step or a slight change in pH.
But multiple steps, including the introduction of other third-party mammalian tissues or bird
not
cell
third
tissues.
party.
They are third-party. You know, they get. You
They're not
said
third-party
that they
because
get a
they're
kidney
taken
cell.
directly from the animal that it was isolated from.
Yeah,
That's
but-
like me taking a swab from a chicken and then putting it in another chicken. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but they still introduce other things into the sample, and what is produced on the cell is produced in a lab environment. It's not like it's a manufactured process. The process manufactures the cell, the protein on the membrane of the cell. That's why you don't just use a sample.
Fundamental misunderstanding.
I don't have a misunderstanding. You can't
virology
answer. You want to believe I have a misunderstanding because you can't answer why the sample itself doesn't make people sick. Even though they're saying, in reality, they're like, when we go out, they don't say in order to make somebody sick that you have to get the sample out of someone. They never say that. They never say you have to get. They never think about it. Okay, if I'm in the room with you, right, and you're saying, and they say I transmitted a virus to you, right?
Yeah.
They're saying that I transmitted the virus based on the biological matter that came out of me, right? You don't have to take that and do an isolation on it, right? Yeah.
No, because the virus, a singular viral particle, can get into me and will replicate inside me.
That's what I'm saying. In reality, when we're just, let's say we're in a room, they never say in order for me to make you sick, we have to take my sputum, then isolate the virus, and then introduce it to you using a mask. They never say that. They say that simply the sputum itself can get onto you, and then the virus within it can make you sick. So why, when you do the studies, why don't you just do a study using the sputum? Why do you have to do the isolation process? But you don't, because it doesn't produce the results that you want.
But we need to control it because we don't know how much virus is inside of your sputum.
That's my point.
We need to analyze it. We need to then, for every chicken we then give the viral isolate to, we need to make sure it's the same amount of isolate. You need to do controls. Exactly.
You control the environment until the result that you are essentially used to is produced. You control the environment, and then you even said you use reference databases to ensure that what you're getting is not dissimilar from.
No, you've misunderstood what.
No. That is what but that is what you do. I'm not misunderstanding anything. That is what you do. Yeah. The RNA that you get, you compare it to a reference database, and it's usually different. But then you will normalize it to ensure that that you only actually pick certain peaks, certain points on the RNA that you say are relevant. In actuality, they're only like 10% similar to each other. But you pick certain.
Wait, you're saying the genomes are completely different.
RNA sequences are very different to each other. They're only like 10% similar. But you only pick. It is true. You only pick.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. You can look it up. They only pick certain regions of the RNA that are similar, and they say these are the functional regions. They only pick functional regions. They ignore the RNA that's dissimilar.
Between which viruses? Strains
for all
have the same RNA.
If you do an isolation. Or no, if you take an RNA sequence from just a sample, then you take an RNA sequence from the viral isolate, those two, they allege that, it's the same RNA. It's not actually the same. They're only like 10% similar. What they do is they take this one and they say, these are the functional regions that are regions of importance. And in this one, these are the regions of importance. And they say, okay, the regions of importance are 95% similar. Therefore, these two things are related. But they're not actually similar RNA sequences. They're actually very different.
You can do full genome sequencing. That's not hard.
Yeah, but when you do the full genome sequences, they're not similar. That's what I'm saying. They are similar. No, they're not. They only they have key regions that are similar. The actual full sequence is not similar. Do you understand?
Where have you read this?
I've done research on it.
Where have you seen this?
I've been doing research on this for years.
Empty term. Where have you read this?
I'm telling you. I'm actually telling you what they do when they do the genome sequencing. You can go on any reference. Look. Let's look it up right now. Okay. Should we look it up right now?
Yes, you can look at singular parts, but if you were interested, people will have done full genome sequencing on.
I know. But okay. Let's look it up right now. Okay. So when you're saying, right, that the RNA genomes that are sequenced are actually 95% similar, and not that certain regions of the RNA are 95% similar. Is that what you're saying?
But similar to what? What's similar?
Okay, I'll ask the question again. Are you saying that when you get the RNA sequences that they're actually 95% similar, or are you saying that the key regions are 95% similar to each other?
Of what? Are you saying the field isolate and the isolate that we use?
The viral isolate and the sample, you can do RNA sequencing on the sample, and you can do RNA sequencing on the isolate. Exactly. You just said it. So you're saying that they're identical. Are you saying that there are key regions that are identical, or are you saying that the actual full RNA sequence is identical?
The whole genome will be identical.
It's not.
Show me.
Okay, sure. So let's just ask.
Don't dare ask ChatGPT.
I am asking ChatGPT because I need to get a source because I can't find the sources that I've already looked at. But
ChatGPT is known to make up sources.
okay, I mean, if you can find me something that shows that they are similar, I'll look that up as well, right? So are RNA sequences exactly similar? And obviously, I have to do this on the fly as well while I'm doing this stream and this stream. So I have to.
Fair enough.
You know,
Fair enough.
are RNA sequences exactly similar, or do they just have regions of similarity?
Well, that's
Key
not the
regions
right
of similar.
question.
Why is that not the right
Because
question?
you're
That's what I'm
asking
saying.
if all viral genomes are similar. Obviously not.
None of them are actually 95% similar. They have key regions of similarity. Exactly. See? RNA sequences are not usually exactly the same across different molecule species or viruses. Instead, they tend
Different species.
across different molecule species or viruses. Even within them, they're also not similar. They have key regions of similarity, also called conserved regions. Conserved regions, these are stretches of nucleotides that remain very similar or identical across species or strains. They often encode or regulate essential functions, e.g. ribosomal RNA, binding sites for proteins. Because they're crucial for survival, they tolerate very little mutation. Variable regions, other stretches of RNA can differ widely, even in regulated organisms. These variable sites accumulate mutations over time and can be used for identification, phylogenetics, or strain typing, right? So they're not actually similar. Do you understand? They have regions of similarity. No, that's what I'm saying. So they have regions of similarity, right? So when you have the viral isolate and when you have the sample from the individual,
No, that's not what was just said.
No, but listen to the point. I'm actually trying the overarching point. When you have a sample from when you have the RNA from the sample and when you have the RNA that's produced from the viral isolate, those two things aren't the same.
That's not what your source has just said. Your source was talking about.
That is what it
different
said.
species.
It's saying that they have key regions that are similar, but the full RNA sequence is
Between
not.
species.
No, within
Not
the actual.
same species.
Okay, let's ask. Within viral species, does this apply to? Yeah.
Viral species will also have differences in gene in certain sections, like the spike protein.
Okay.
coronavirus will
Let's ask.
mutate a lot.
Yes, the same principle applies within viral species. Even when you look at viruses of the same species, their RNA sequence aren't 100% identical. Instead, they have.
that's true.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm telling you. So think about what I'm saying carefully. The RNA sequence from the viral isolate and the RNA sequence that's in the sample aren't the same.
Okay, that's not entirely true. I do.
It
see
is
where we
true.
got
It
confused
is true.
here.
So
I'm
you
seeing
do
where
an
we got
experiment.
confused.
That's what I'm saying.
So-
You do an experiment with the viral isolate. You don't do
Okay.
the experiment
Can I
with
explain?
the original sample. If you did it with the original sample, it wouldn't make the chicken sick. The viral isolate makes the chicken sick.
No, can I explain?
All right,
So-
sure.
For example, in coronaviruses, you have the spike protein, which is extremely mutagenic, so that will change its structure very regularly. That's probably the most mutagenic part of the whole structure. Now, you're right; those conserved, those parts of the gene will be sequenced from the direct field isolate, and we will also sequence it before we give it to a chicken. We'll make sure that those parts that we know will change, we'll make sure that those parts haven't changed.
Yes. Okay, I'll give you another example, right? Do you think that there's a difference between endogenous insulin and synthetic insulin?
I don't know much about insulin, I'll be honest.
Okay, like let's just say like vitamins. Like think about it. Like something can have the same markers. You can when you use something that's endogenous or something that's synthetic, when you do the IR sequencing on it, or when you do the NMR spectroscopy on it, it can look like it's the same. It can have the same markers, but it can also be fundamentally different. Just because something has similarities doesn't mean that it's the exact same thing. Those key regions that virologists have identified, right? That they say these are the regions that are involved in the sickness. Sorry, what did I say? NMR, yeah, NMR spectroscopy, isn't that right?
NMR?
I may have misspoken.
Electron?
Hold on. NMR spectroscopy, yeah. What?
Right,
I don't think he knows what that is. It's when NMR spectroscopy use the magnetic properties of atomic nuclei to reveal the structure, identity, and behavior of molecules. So,
you can
that's
use
what
that.
NMR spectroscopy is. That can be used to identify molecules and their similarities. What I'm trying to say is, just because something has similarities doesn't mean it's exactly the same. What you've said, you've conceded, and obviously this is shown through the fact that you're saying you're finding conserved regions and variable regions, that they're not actually exactly the same. So when you do the scientific experimentation and you allege that the sample makes people sick, you're not actually using the sample. You're using something that's distinct from the sample, which is the viral RNA that you have produced in the lab setting. Yeah?
Which we will make sure is the same as the viral. The virus
not
isn't
the
going to
same.
change that much. Also, any changes that happen in a lab would have also happened in a chicken. From chicken to chicken, different chickens have different
That's an
environments
assumption.
inside their bodies.
That's an assumption.
It makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so the ultimate way of testing it would be using the sample to see if the chickens get sick, right? And not using the
which I'm
virus.
sure,
You should do that.
yeah, I'm sure people do.
They do, and then there's no evidence of the sample making
Where's
people
this
sick.
no evidence of the? Where's this? Where's
They've
this
done
paper? Where's
they've done studies on. They do studies on
Who's
this.
they?
People that challenge virology, people that challenge the rhetoric of virologists. They do studies, like Dr. Tom Cowan. They did a study where they introduced a sample that contains everything other than the viral sample. So everything used to isolate the viral sample other than the viral sample, they sent it off to a lab with the kidney cell and everything. They sent it off to the lab, and the lab came back as positive for HIV, SARS-CoV-2. They sent it without even a viral sample in it. So what they're sending off is the product of a kidney cell.
That study.
I
I'm
can,
gonna need to see
I
that
think I actually
study.
have it up already. Hold on. I think I saved this on YouTube. Is it here? The experiment that shows perfect. I've actually got it. Right, let's listen to this. I've actually got it for you. This is groundbreaking, guys. Finally, I have the original video, so nobody can tell me that I'm making something up. So I'm actually just gonna pull this. I've got the video here. I'm gonna play it for you so that you can listen to the guy that's done the study explain to you exactly what I'm saying. Is that fair?
This is that Cowan guy that had to hand in his medical license, right? In 2021.
He voluntarily handed in his medical license.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, he voluntarily handed it in because he recognizes that virology is bullshit. Hold
Right.
on. Oh, my fucking laptop needs to charge up a little bit. Hold on. So you know of Dr. Tom Cowan, right? So it's not like you
I've heard some people mentioning, yeah.
Okay. Lewis, let's get some of the comments just in the meantime. Dr. Cowan, who thinks 5G makes people sick. Radiation does make people sick. 5G can make people sick. I'm not saying 5G causes COVID, but 5G definitely can make people sick. I mean, that's obvious. Hold on. Do you know what, TM? I don't think she's rattled. I actually think she's fascinated about what I'm saying. I don't think she's rattled. And I actually really want to play her this video, but my fucking laptop is taking ages to charge up. Hold on.
No, if I'm honest, I really do find this fascinating.
Don't go.
Me?
Yeah, no, don't go. I want to make sure.
Oh, right.
Okay. Yes, okay, it's coming up now. Brokies, please go read a book. I read a lot of books. Oh, come on. Okay, I think we got it now. Perfect. So listen carefully to this. Perfect. Okay. Okay.
Seth, that is the end of virology. We, a bunch of us, decided to run this experiment again. The whole thing with the three steps, which are the CPE, the culture, the electron microscope, and the genome. We hired a lab. This is with our friend Stefan Lenka. We took cells that are growing, kidney cells, and we fed them the normal nutrients, and we fed them a little bit of antibiotics, but not much. 5 days later, they were fine. Then we added the same cells, and we added fetal calf serum, which is added to every culture experiment done since 1960, to see if it was the fetal calf serum that was killing the cells. The cells were fine. Then we did the next experiment, which was cells. We added the antibiotics, same concentration as they add in every culture experiment. We added the same nutrients, same as everyone, the same fetal calf serum. 3 days later, the cells died, called CPE, proving there was a virus when there was no virus anywhere or nothing from...
CPE is a cytopathic effect. So that's actually the effect that they use to say this was the causative agent of illness if the cell gets a cytopathic effect.
Any sick person ever introduced into the experiment. It was the experiment that the antibiotics or the nutrients or the mix together that killed the cells. Finally, we added RNA from yeast. Brewer's yeast has a lot of RNA in it. We added that, and it killed the cells even more, proving that it's either the antibiotics or the nutrients or the fetal calf serum or maybe adding yeast. Maybe kidney cells don't like yeast. But the reason we did that is then we sent that to a biostatistician type, and we said, is there a SARS-CoV-2 genome in that mix? And they found the SARS-CoV-2 genome. And then we asked, is there the measles virus genome in there? He found measles virus genome. He found HIV. In fact, HIV was the biggest match from that mixture, proving that those genomes aren't in the mix. What they are is little pieces of RNA, and they stitch them together to create a computer model of a genome. And if you give it a template, it will make whatever genome you tell it to make, as long as you have some biological material like fetal calf serum or yeast RNA or kidney cells.
Exactly, and that's why they introduce the third-party biological material, because the third-party biological material is a cell factory. Like, cells are alive. Cells, if I come over to you, yeah, and I say, and I shout in your face, you're gonna do something, then you might get cortisol production in your body, right?
Yeah.
Cells are alive. When you put a cell in an environment that's abnormal and you introduce other biological matter, or you introduce other chemicals, or you introduce or you induce certain effects within the cell, it produces things on its protein. They then take the thing produced on the cell and they say, this is the viral isolate. You then introduce it to the chicken and you say it made the chicken sick. But that is a toxin, that is a product of the cell from the viral isolation process.
May I comment?
Sure.
Okay, so it's actually a really interesting point to bring up because, well, I'd be interested to know how they've done this experiment, where it's published and who peer reviewed it, because I hope when I plan an experiment, I always plan controls. So if I'm infecting some chicken kidney cells, there will always be one well in my plate that will have, I will add absolutely everything I've added to all the others except my virus. And I will then do the qPCRs on that. I will do plaque assays to see the infectious virus that's released from the cells subsequently. And those are always negative. So the data I get in week on week would directly contradict what that man is saying.
Not really, because again, you're using the viral isolate. I'm not saying that a viral isolate can't make someone sick. Like if I'm healthy right now, yeah, and then I go and get something from a lab, I go and make something from a lab that was produced on the cell from the cells of a sick creature, right? And I breathe that in a mask. It's quite possible that I would get sick, but that's not necessarily a contagion that would make me sick. It could simply be that my body doesn't want those toxins introduced to it. I'm not actually contagious. I am just being put in a circumstance that is making me sick by virtue of me being introduced to something that's abnormal. In other words, for example, if I introduced alcohol, if you had to breathe in, let's say, sawdust, right? Sawdust is not contagious. But if I started making you breathe in sawdust, you would get sick, right? But that doesn't mean that you then are going to pass on sawdust sickness to somebody else. You're not contagious. The environment that is introduced in that experimentation is what is making you sick. Do you understand? The thing that you're being forced to inhale, the chickens are being forced to inhale, that's what's making them sick. But that doesn't mean that they are then contagious. They're going to go and pass the contagion on. It means that what you introduced to them directly made them sick.
That doesn't explain why the only difference between my mock and my infected sample is my virus.
Because it does explain it, because the virus is the viral isolate that you made in the lab. It's not just the sample.
Right, here we go again.
Yeah, that's the key point.
I'm going to be honest, I can't argue with you. You're not going to concede on that.
What do you want me to concede on?
That there is no difference between the virus that I use and the virus that is spreading around.
But you already admitted that there's a difference.
You are?
You already admitted that there's a difference. We already pulled it up. We already said the RNA and the native sample, the RNA in the sample, so the RNA from the viral isolate and the RNA from the sample, we already found that they're different. We even said, look, there's conserved regions and variable regions, right?
Yeah, we agree that viruses
mutate
significantly.
So they are different.
Not necessarily. I've already said that we will check the RNA sequence on those regions that tend to mutate regularly.
So they're similar in certain
Check that
regions, but they're mostly different, right?
in the regions that will mutate, we know the other regions won't mutate.
Okay, but they're still not the
I'm
same.
going to be honest, I have to go to bed. This is sort of ridiculous.
Yeah, you want it to be ridiculous because I'm challenging your worldview. It's a religious belief that you have.
I don't feel challenged at all, but have a lovely...
Yeah, because you're going to
have a lovely
defer
evening.
back to the same sources that teach you this stuff, and they don't like being challenged either.
And your sources are from random men on YouTube who
But
have
it doesn't
done
matter. It doesn't matter who's.
studies.
It doesn't actually matter who's saying it if you actually think critically about it.
does.
But if you think critically about it, I mean, you're the one that does the studies. Why don't you just do the studies with just the sample? You can't answer.
I could do studies with just a sample.
Do
but I
it and
wouldn't
tell
even
us what your
follow
results
them.
are. I would
Fine.
love to see what
Cool.
your results are, because I'm telling you, the studies get done regularly and it doesn't produce the same results. The viral isolate can produce the results. The sample doesn't produce the results. That's why they do the isolation process.
Okay. Have a lovely evening.
You too. Have a lovely evening. And I appreciate you coming on to be challenged, because I know medical people, they don't like being challenged on this stuff. They defer to the mob. It's a rule by mob. That's what the medical consensus is. They defer to the people that are most congruent with the mainstream narrative. Now, I will give you guys that. And, I can even concede earlier that that guy he said that the study shows that the COVID vaccine reduces the incidence of death and hospitalization. That's all well and good. The study may well show that. But my questioning is more around the actual premises that this rhetoric is based on. Because, again, I've conceded many a time that a study can show that something reduces the likelihood of death, reduces the likelihood of hospitalization, even can show that reduces the incidence of something. But when you have these people manufacturing product after product after product and then just discarding the evidence that shows that their product doesn't work, they just discard, they tweak it until it produces the results that they want. The results can be pure coincidence, but they will only pick out the study that is congruent with their narrative. They do hundreds and hundreds of studies. They to make one vaccine, they make so many different vaccines, and most of them don't do what they say. But you would think that based on the narrative, all they would need is the dead or inactive pathogen, right? But they have to keep introducing something until they are able to get the results that they want, and then that's when they publish that study. And we know that this is what they do because they won't be able to produce a product unless they can get a study that aligns with their narrative. And there's so many, I'm not saying I know everything. I'm not saying that everything I say is definitely 100% correct. I could be wrong about stuff, but I've noticed that these people never want to contend with the elephant in the room, which is that they never introduce the raw sample to an individual and see if it makes them sick. They own everything they do is always with the viral isolate, and that's what we really need to start unpacking. Why is it that every time they do it, it's always with the viral isolate? It's because the viral isolate is not the same as the thing that they're saying is making you sick when you're walking around in public. That is a sample that comes from a human being, and it doesn't make you sick. You become sick because you are sick. You become sick because you have toxins in your body. You become sick because of the change in weather. You become sick because of stress. You become sick because you are sick, not because a virus made you sick. You become sick because of your bad diet. When sickness can be attributed to external agents, it makes it easier for them to need an external solution, and that's what the pharmaceutical paradigm is based on. It's based on a paradigm whereby you have been made sick by something external, and therefore something external is the only thing that can prevent your sickness. But if you were to consider that maybe you were actually sick because of something you've done, or some internal change, or the fact that you're not, eating a natural human diet, then maybe you would feel like, maybe I'll do something distinct from what these people are suggesting. And you will notice that everything they suggest always happens to have a profit incentive there, a hidden profit incentive within. Especially when you talk about vaccines. I mean, vaccines, they are the perfect product for the pharmaceutical mafia. And that's why they push them so hard. That's why there's all this rhetoric around vaccines, because they want products to all become vaccines, basically. or similar to vaccines, because the model of vaccines is a much better model to sell products. Lewis Jones says that's why we live to see 80, 90, 100 years old instead of dying at infancy or max 35. Nobody was dying at 35, mate. People that die at 35, they'd be dying in war, or you got to remember, you're dealing with averages. So if you're going to consider the average age that people live to, include all of the aborted babies in it as well, and that's the average age. Because the reality is that the thing that's changed is there's lower infant mortality. That's why the life expectancy has gone up so significantly, because infant mortality is someone dying at 0, 1, 2, 3. That's a massive skew. Everyone could live to 100 years old, and decreasing the rate of people dying at 0 by 20% would literally decrease the would increase the life expectancy by a massive amount. So to change, it's not that people used to die at 35, 60, 70. It's not that. They used to live long. They've lived to 80, 100, etc. They used to live just as long, if not longer. It's that the child mortality went down, and it went down because of things like incubators, which are really good technology. Because, if you imagine being somebody who lives in the UK, right? And you have a premature birth in winter. Can you imagine how difficult it would be to keep that child alive? A premature birth in winter, when you don't even have access to the hospital. That child's going to die, quite frankly, right? But when you have access to hospitals, when you have access to incubators, when you have access to certain stabilizing medicines, because not all medicines are bad. Of course, not all medicine is bad. Medicine is a great thing if it's used properly, right? But there is other things that are increasing the lifespan and decreasing childhood mortality. And I can tell you that vaccines are not one of them. Vaccines are superimposed upon the trends in order to sell products. And it's a very clever ruse. Shireen says, you shed when you're unwell after the jab and then you're dangerous to others. I don't know about that. I've seen a lot of people say that. I don't know about that. Lewis says, so that technology is fine. Yeah, of course. Like, who would be against incubators? There's loads of technology that's fine. I even think antibiotics. I mean, there are a lot of people that are against antibiotics. I think antibiotics are useful, especially when you have like the proliferation of, or if you have like bacterial overgrowth. Antibiotics are useful. They are definitely overused massively, probably like 95% overused, right? But there is definitely instances where antibiotics can be useful. Surgery is definitely useful. The surgical developments have been groundbreaking. There's surgeries that can be done on children and young adults and adults, all kinds of things that save people's lives. Surgery is a great thing. But the problem is mixed in, conflated within the things that are good within medical science and within medical technology are things that are bad, like vaccines. Vaccines are junk science. It's charlatan. Is the word charlatanry? And it's not like there hasn't been things within medicine before that have been ubiquitously accepted that are wrong. But this narrative is charlatanry. Yeah. This narrative is particularly pernicious. It will never leave us because it forms the basis of virology, which is it's a modern junk science. It is nonsense. It is based on mystics and quacks who, in fact, virology comes, like I've said many times, virology comes from Jewish mysticism. The medical science has been infiltrated by people who have mystic belief or had mystic beliefs, and they came up with these concepts because they have an agenda. And in reality, the agenda is about being able to more intimately manipulate human beings and what we are, and to create narratives around us that justify inherently changing humans from being natural organic beings to beings that are that require the intervention of technology, that require the intervention of third party substances right from birth. And that's where you see mRNA vaccines. You can even see the how the rhetoric has progressed from simply just inoculation to now we're talking about gene therapies and mRNAs, and now we're talking about even vaccines for cancer, even though oncoviruses are also a scam. So now they're even talking about vaccines for cancer and the like, and it's all to normalize the concept of us tampering with human DNA, tampering with who we are, and allowing the ever advancing encroachment of the medical establishment into our personal beings. Lewis Jones doesn't like it. He thinks I'm a conspiracy nut. But you know, you can look at the history. You can see how. I mean, the medical establishment is more powerful than it's ever been. This is 100 years. This is 100 years, guys, from, you know, the first vaccine campaigns to now. We're talking about 100 years. This rhetoric, this narrative is what has made the pharmaceutical mafia so powerful. Without virology, you know, that's a massive blow to the pharmaceutical cartel, is debunking the virology narratives. Angel Fry says, I brought him up because his whole base hates vaccines. It means a lot. Who? Trump? No, most people who support Trump are pro-vaccine. You know, you can look at, I mean, let's say take a Republican state. Let's just see vaccination rates by state USA, and you'll see that every single state has people who vaccinate their children for the vast majority. Vaccination coverage by state. Let's see if we got vaccination coverage by state. Vaccination rates vary by state, ethnicity, race. What we got? United States. So we're talking about 70% of people. National child vaccination rate, 72%, 72.1%. State level rates ranged from as low as 56.6% in West Virginia to as high as 87.9% in Iowa. So Iowa, that's a red state. So Trump supporters are pro-vaccine for the most part. They give their kids the childhood vaccines, and the majority of them also got the COVID vaccine. So Trump supporters aren't really anti-vax. I guess you could say RFK, he kind of teeters on the edge of being anti-vax, but he's endorsed the measles vaccine. I believe he endorsed, is it measles, mumps, rubella? He endorsed that vaccine. By the way, in the UK now, they've actually added varicella to that, the chickenpox vaccine. God knows why we need a vaccine for chickenpox. You know, I'm sure they've got a narrative around that. So you got the measles, mumps, rubella, varicella now in the UK. We got 15 people in the live, guys. I appreciate everyone that stayed this long. We got a decent amount of likes. I think there's quite a lot of likes for an anti-vax live. We tend to get a lot of hate on the anti-vax lives. Angel Fry says majority of Trump supporters around me and on social media are all fearmongered about vaxes. Well, that's good. I'm glad people are waking up. It tends to be the Republicans in the United States that push the envelope of a free society. I'm not saying they're not captured by, you know, pharmaceutical lobbyists and et cetera, et cetera. But if you look at the history of the USA, the history of freedom in the USA is essentially a Republican paradigm. In other words, what is republicanism is what it means to be American. If you look at American history, what we consider the modern stereotypes of what it means to be American, these things politically, these things come from the GOP. Democracy in America, we're talking about something that's really from post World War II. That's when you start seeing, well, not just democracy, but when you start seeing socialism properly being implemented. You're talking about post World War II and then post Cold War. That's when you start seeing these ideas proliferating among the American population. The Republic and the ideas of the Republic are the quintessential American ideas. So yeah, the Republican Party typically does push the envelope when it comes to, you know, let's face it, freedom. But at the same time, that's not to say that they're perfect. That's not to say that the political parties are not captured by lobbyists, etc. But I think Republicans in America are probably among the most righteous. Not to say that they're not corrupt, but their beliefs are among the most righteous in the world. I mean, what other party pushes freedom of speech, medical freedom to a greater extent than any other party in the world? I mean, unless you're talking about small obscure parties, I think the Republican Party is probably the largest, most party that pushes freedom the most. I'm not a Republican, but what other party can you name worldwide that pushes freedom to the extent that the Republican Party does? Angel Fry says, why are vaxxers bad in your view? Do you mean all vaxxers or just COVID vaxxers? All vaxxers. It's based on junk science. TM says, why should I debate when I fully endorse all response? Yeah, TM's woke. I mean, I don't know. I don't like just agreeing. I don't like just giving props to people that agree with me. But I feel like most of the people that I talk to about this topic I wonder, I'm not saying they don't, but I wonder if they even understand what I'm saying, or if they just think I'm talking shit. So the reason I like TM is because I can see that he clearly understands what I'm saying. But you do get sometimes people that are debaters that understand what I'm saying. I've had a few people say, that's actually a really good critique. In fact, that girl, I feel like she understood what I was saying, but she didn't want to concede that I was making actually a really key point with respect to the narrative. And again, just to clarify to everyone, you can show me any study you like that proves efficacy. I want to go back to the first principles. Yeah? Because I can show you a study that shows you that taking heroin, it has some positive outcomes. I can show you a study that people who are having a heroin overdose, if they have a line of cocaine or something, right? You know, I'm sure there's a study that means that person is less likely to die from, you know, a heroin overdose if they take a line. That doesn't mean that taking a line is good for you. It means that there are unique circumstances where a study might show that a vaccine has some kind of efficacy. That doesn't mean that vaccines are good, because that study can be modeled in such a way as to, first of all, the outcome it can have efficacy in can be an outcome that's heavily influenced by other factors like hospitalizations. And also, studies can be cherry-picked and are cherry-picked. And it makes more sense to argue on first principles on the basis of show that the virus is the causative agent of sickness. They can't. So anything they say for other than that is meaningless. Blueby says there are lots of studies proving the effectiveness of vaccines. Again, as I just said, you're talking about effectiveness of vaccines. I want to go to the first principles. I want to talk about the evidence that suggests that the virus that the vaccine is targeting is actually the causative agent in sickness. That's what I want to get to. Because every time we get there, it's all Me when I don't know how to read studies. I do know how to read studies. Why? Why? Because again, I gave you an example of how. Okay, let's say like let's say like tanning beds, right? I could show you a study that people that go in tanning beds live longer, right? Cool. People that tan regularly, they live longer. The people that tan regularly may live longer because they are wealthy enough to afford tanning, and therefore they're wealthy enough to afford other things that would make them live longer. So that's the critique of from the epidemiological standpoint, right? The epidemiological studies that they do with vaccines. But you might say, well, no, there are actual controlled clinical trials with vaccines that show efficacy. Right, cool. Every time you get one of these studies up, 9 times out of 10, once you start probing into it, you see, they're talking about reduced likelihood of symptoms. They're talking about reduced hospitalizations. Rarely are they actually saying this reduces your likelihood of death from this condition, right? And when you talk about the likelihood of death from a condition, you usually, almost 99% of the time, are using epidemiological studies. And again, epidemiological studies are influenced by other co-factors. You can control for income levels and things like that. You can control for these things. I know that, and I also know that they have, they do control for these things. But you can't divorce that from the fact that simply having a study that shows, this thing is less likely, doesn't mean that the narrative around why the thing is less likely is true. Right? In other words, it could simply be that they do so many studies that they pick out the ones that coincidentally show the outcomes that they want. There are many vaccine studies that show no efficacy, but they rely on the studies that do show efficacy and push those products. In other words, they have a never-ending carte blanche to do studies until they find studies that support what they say, and then they introduce those studies. That's why I think it makes more sense to go back to the first principles. Let's go back to what they're alleging. They're alleging that you walk into a room with a person. When you're in that room, you sneeze, the sneeze droplets land on a person, and then the person becomes sick. Somebody else becomes sick from your sneeze droplets. But they never show this in the studies. They only get the sample of the sneeze, isolate it by doing multiple things to it, adding antibiotics to it, having something expressed on the cell, some protein on kidney, a monkey kidney cell. They take the protein that comes off the monkey kidney cell, and then they will sometimes inject it into you. Sometimes they'll make a concentrated aerosol where, you know, are we doing the same level of concentration that was in the saliva? They make a concentrated aerosol, make you breathe it in, or they inject it into you, or they put you in a room where you have to breathe this thing in and nothing else. The studies always are not representative of how you would actually supposedly catch this thing in real life. Never do they do studies like that. And then they say, the study showed that there was causation. And then when they introduce this thing to you, the studies the person never develops the exact same symptoms. They just pick one or two symptoms. They lost weight? They had color changes? They had a headache? They pick one or two symptoms and say, this means they got the disease. They never express the entire syndrome of symptoms of the disease. Right, how long have we been live right now? Let's just check. I think we're going to wrap it up there. Any final questions? Thank you everyone for the support. I appreciate it. I'll be live again tomorrow on a different topic. Anybody? Okay. Cheers, guys. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay. Thank you, YouTube viewers. I don't know how many people we still got viewing on YouTube, but I do appreciate it. I appreciate the support. I hope everyone understood what I was saying and was able to follow what I'm saying. You know, I could be wrong. I would love if people could challenge me. I like debating people.